Kansas City Chiefs, you're on the clock. Welcome back. In this team mock draft series, we're talking the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got to do some things to help this team get back to the top. They were right there at the Super Bowl, but they had some issues. They couldn't protect Mahomes, so we've got to look at some offensive line help. I know they got some reinforcements in free agency, but is it good enough? We need some defensive help. On the clock at pick 31, and it's kind of a slam dunk. Need lines up with pick. We're taking Shemar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. This guy fits exactly what they're looking for. They need some edge help. I think they can continue to add some pieces in there because we don't know what's going to happen with some of these guys that are coming up for contracts, Karlaftis and such. So give me Shemar Stewart. I think he could play. They could move him around and play him in a variety of roles. He's big. He's strong. He's athletic. The only question that we have to answer is what's the problem here? So in college, he only had 4.5 sacks, but when you look at the tape, you see just kind of this athletic freak at his size. So was it the system? Was it the team he was playing on? I think this would be a better situation for him. I think they know what to do with these edge rushers that are athletic and big and physical. So I like Shemar Stewart going to KC, but you guys let me know. Are you happy with this at 31? I do want to note that I'm not making trades in this draft. I know that there will be trades to be had, and a team like KC would be in a perfect spot to trade down if somebody wants to move into the first round for that extra year of contract eligibility with these first round picks. But we're staying with every pick. We're going to make every single one of them. We're going with Shemar Stewart. Back on the clock at pick 63, and a question you have to ask yourself is, does arm length really matter? 34-inch and longer arm seems to be the type of tackles that they look for. And the guys that are available on the board that could fit in here are more like interior guys, because when you look at their guards, 32, 33-inch arm lengths are kind of where they sit at. And even in center and guards, I'm going to go with Ursary from Minnesota here. He's big, powerful, physical. I think they could play him inside. He obviously played tackle exclusively at Minnesota, but I think this kid could really be a startable piece from day one if that's what they were really trying to do, or he could be a guy that could push for playing time on the outside. But if arm length really does matter, and that is something that's key to them, then he would have a hard time being an outside player for this team because of his arm length. But give me Ursary here at 63. I think the value lines up perfectly. Now, this is where things really get interesting. Do we start to see them look to the future? Because if the board really does fall like this, you've got some really nice running backs here in Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey, but they wouldn't necessarily need to be playing this year. You have safety. Emin is a guy that I would love to see in, late first, in the second round. That's kind of where I've been slotting him in a lot of mocks, but I know that people have been changing kind of their view on him, but he's a guy that I could see a team go after as a long-term piece, but he doesn't necessarily need to start for a team like Kansas City. Or do they look for guys in the early part of the third round that are going to be starters from day one? I mean, this is one of those teams that they do a good job of having a really strong core, but also looking forward to the future. So that's where the questions are going to be answered in this draft is, how do we see the board really start to fall? Now, I had targeted 2 areas of need, offensive line and edge rusher. But what I'm going to do with this one is I'm leaning to the future, and I'm going Caleb Johnson from Iowa. He's a very patient runner. I wouldn't say necessarily looks exactly like a guy they have on the roster in Kareem Hunt, but kind of in that same mold. 6 foot to over 220, physical. I think he's probably a very KC style running back, and I think looking long term, he could be a really nice piece for this offense. So why not grab him here? You don't have to start him early, but you could play him in case of injuries or emergencies, or maybe just outplay some of these guys and just earns a role early. Back on the clock at pick 95, you're going to see me make kind of a similar move to our last round. We are going to look to the future here, and we're grabbing Kevin Winston Jr., safety from Penn State. This kid is already a high-level safety. I mean, he's very good against the run. He's a very sure tackler. He's got great burst. He's got a lot of things that I think a team is going to love in the top 100 picks. So why not grab him here and let him either sit or come in if they bring in an extra safeties. and then he becomes your guy for the future because they could use some help long term. Back on the clock at pick 133, and this time we're looking linebacker, but probably not the one that you would think. So this team always seems to be rotating in and bringing in more linebackers every year. You know, when you look at their roster, they obviously have Bolton, Chenal, Tranquil. These are kind of their top pieces, but it seems like every year there's another new guy on the roster in terms of linebacker. And I think this year's got a crop of guys that really could fit the mold of developmental with startable upside down the road. And we're going Cody Simon from Ohio State. This kid does a good job. He's got a high football IQ, I should say, in terms of recognition. You know, his gap principles seem to be really strong, at least from what I've seen. Pretty sure tackler, little undersized in the weight department, but he's got sideline to sideline range. I think he could really be a nice piece for this defense, a guy that they could utilize in a variety of roles. So give me him here. Let him either come in and play as a sub or be a special teamer to start and be a guy that could look for playing time down the road. Lock it in the fourth round and let's go. Back on the clock at pick 226, and this is where we're taking developmental pieces with upside, right? I mean, I know we've taken a couple guys that here later that could be in that similar category, but this time we're going to look at a tackle. 34.5-inch arm length, Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. He's a plus pass protector with capable run blocking ability, 6'7". He's got a lot to offer a team. He could step in and be a developmental guy now that could become an offensive playmaker. Could be a starter for them down the road. I don't see why somebody wouldn't take a shot on this kid. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of upside. I expect him to be drafted. Back on the clock at pick 251, I want to say in full disclosure, it would be hard for me to see them drafting a receiver and a tight end in this class. Just because their receiving core is deep. I know there's question marks in their tight end group. I like what they have in Noah Gray and Jared Wiley following Travis Kelce if he does retire after this season. But because I'm trying to mix it up and give some variety of players to give you some different types of players that teams might look at, I'm going to grab a receiver, and probably the last pick's probably going to be a tight end. But I'm going to look at different players this time. So we know that KC kind of has a type. They like kind of the big physical route runner that may not be super fast, and they also like speedsters, right? So Arian Smith from Georgia is the speedster style of receiver. He may not be the best route runner. On a team full of physical freaks, he made Feldman's freak list and was probably the most speedy of the players on that roster in Georgia. Drops are an issue. That's something that we saw throughout his collegiate career. Not necessarily the most consistent, so that'll be something that would need to be cleaned up. But again, it isn't something that can't be fixed. It is something that the team would need to look into. And at this late, why not take a shot on a guy who's blazing fast and has a lot of big play potential that came from a big-time program? So, I mean, Arian Smith from Georgia. Back on the clock with our final pick, 257, to close out this draft. We're going to go tight end. We're not going to grab Brant Queeth. I know I've drafted him plenty of times for teams, and I love that player. I think late round, he's just a steal for a team. Bryson Nesbitt would be a fun fit for this team, but I don't necessarily think he's got the physical speed and the ability to be that receiving tight end like Rivaldo Fairweather from Auburn would be. He's bigger, he's faster. I think he could be kind of one of those move tight ends that KC likes. They like those taller guys that got a little bit of speed to them, a little wiggle to their game. So give me Fairweather here to close this thing out. And here you have it. We got you some edge help. We got you some offensive linemen. We've got some linebackers, running back, safety. What do you guys think? Would you be happy with this draft, KC? Chiefs Nation, would you get behind this? PFF doesn't hate it. I mean, obviously they didn't love my linebacker pick there for him, but let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, do all those fun things. It definitely shows some appreciation to me and the team here at Draft Countdown. We'll see you later.